Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with a surprise Sunday guest, Mr. Dion from Dion Talk. How you doing, sir?
Howdy, I'm doing great. I love how my memory works. Every time you say, when I hit record, you're going to have to hit accept. Every single time I go, oh yeah, that's a thing.
That is hilarious. Well, hey, what I'm trying to do here is pull up something because as you saw yesterday, Matt, the lumberjack, and I had a question from a 16-year-old, and he and I took a shot at answering it. I'm going to read it here, but I knew that I wanted to ask you the same question. So you saw the video of Matt and I going through this, yes?
I did.
Any initial thoughts or feedback on that video before you give your answers?
No, I'm kind of glad you did it separately so that you get, the full version without us interacting. Yeah. In this case.
So I'm gonna go ahead and read the question. I'm gonna read the real net of it here. So here we go. This is, I think it's from a 16-year-old, but the way it's written, it might be somebody who knows a 16-year-old. But either way, here's the question. I have to ask, since you were there, what advice would you give a smart 16-year-old kid with a good heart and a good work ethic that have parents that struggle just to keep the lights on, or maybe even has parents that aren't supportive at all, perhaps even dysfunctional, and experiencing food insecurities? But this young person would like to break the cycle and get out of the poverty trap and experience financial freedom.
I would give the same advice I would give to a not smart 16-year-old. I think I would take that out of the equation. Mm-hmm. If the person who wrote this is the 16-year-old, I think they're on the right track watching this content.
Okay.
If it's a person who wants to help a 16-year-old, I think getting them onto content like this would help, but I would probably, at that age bracket, look at Minority Mindset, 3-year-old videos from Graham Stephan and Meet Kevin, just kind of the younger bracket. Yeah. Once they're into it and their mind opens up to how finances work, then our kind of content probably doesn't scare them away so fast.
No, I agree. Yeah, right. I mean, it's hard to believe, right? My daughter's 31, so 16-year-old, half her age, right? So I'm old, right? So yeah, I think you're right. I think Minority Mindset, old Graham Stephan stuff, would be a good start. Yeah.
I always overshare in these videos, and I hate that my kids are getting older too. And the joke I make with my kids is it sucks. Their friends are starting to get too old for me to date now. But yes, I waited till you were taking a drink. You're welcome for that. So the second thing that this 16-year-old has is a good work ethic. That's important. And that's something that I take away from what you've done and what I've done, is that we've both realized we're not entrepreneurs. Mm-mm. We're investors. We make great employees.
Yes.
But we did the work for those 5 to 10 years so that we would never have to have that job. And so at 16,
that's a great point. I did not, this is why you're right. I like doing this separately. Right. I think there's magic in what you just said, because I think a lot of social media today, the Gary V crowd, Gary V stuff plays to the 16-year-old, 18-year-old males. Usually he says it in his videos. That's like his niche. Gary V, if you don't know who he is very entrepreneurial, damn the torpedoes, run, but entrepreneur. I still don't have that. I still don't think I'm an entrepreneur. I'm an okay investor and I'm a great employee. I think that's a great point. Yeah, I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Thanks. Yeah, that was my takeaway from it, was I have a great work ethic. To know that at 16, either the person knowing that they're going to take work serious, or somebody else watching a 16-year-old saying that they have a work ethic. Yeah. I think you started working around 12. I started working around 8. I've pretty much had a job ever since. The longest period of time I've gone without work is when I got laid off from the police department. It took me 9 days to find a driving job.
Wow.
So I've started a couple of businesses and they failed epically. So I'm definitely not an entrepreneur, but I have a good work ethic. I think running the truck driving school that I do, if I owned it, it would be 1/10 of the size as what I've grown it to working for someone else. It grew so much they gave me part ownership, so I really appreciate that. but I wouldn't have done it if it was for me. Kind of like my real estate. You and Matt have grown machines. I reached financial freedom. And because it's me, that's where I'm comfortable.
Yeah.
I think if I was doing real estate for someone else, I would be working at a bigger portfolio. So it's weird takeaway for me.
Yeah.
But so the 16-year-old understanding what you say all the time, this is not get rich quick, it's get wealthy for sure. There's going to be 5 to 10 years of actual work. So the good work ethic is going to pay off. Picking a strategy, not racking up a bunch of student loan debt unless it's going to be towards a degree that's actually going to mean more income. If there's a college course or a college degree that person really, really wants, but it's not going to equal more income, get the passive income first, then have the experience later that the passive income pays for.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing I didn't do this in that conversation with Matt, I think we'll do here is I would ask that 16-year-old, right? If I was having a conversation with him across a couch or a coffee table or whatever, I would ask him the same thing I ask high school seniors. I would ask him, do you think you can live on $2,000 a month? Every high school senior I know has said yes. So I would imagine a 16-year-old would say yes. And then I would follow that up with the same story. Congratulations. You know, I think you could be financially free by 20, right? 16, 24 years. That hopefully shocks them because again, he's coming from parents who can't pay the freaking light bill, right? And hopefully that catches his attention on purpose, right? I want that shock factor. I want that memory. And then I say, okay, it's time to get to work. Like you said earlier, you're going to get a job. I would argue a commission-based job is the way to go. I had a commission-based job starting at 15. Before that, I was selling hours like everybody else. But when you have a commission and you eat what you kill, as we call it, you just work harder. And the upside is awesome. So I would find some kind of commission-based job and just go after it. And then I would be Graham Stephan, right? I would try to live on 90%, or I would try to live on 10% and save everything else. I would house hack. I would probably roommate hack like Todd Baldwin or Spencer Cornelia. And I would do the 4-3-2-1, right? Dude, you could be done by 20. So I want this 16-year-old to be hopeful, not depressed. I want them to recognize where they are and make it fuel, not complaining. One of the things I see all over the world today are people that bitch and moan and complain about where they are and they do nothing. Nothing pisses me off more than whining and crying and blaming others. Life's hard. Life owes you nothing. Get off your ass and do something.
I agree. Life is hard and you need to pick your hard. A lot of people pick their job and they hate it and they stay there with no plan to exit other than possibly retiring at a certain age with a retirement account where, like you said, within 4 years, they can reach financial freedom if they figure out what their freedom number is.
Yeah.
The way I would look at it is if the 16-year-old is watching this content and commenting in our groups, they're on the right path. If it's somebody helping that 16-year-old, I would make sure that person is exposed to both sides of investing. I think you've mentioned it before. Your daughter went to job sites where she saw the work that needs to be done to get a rental ready.
Yep.
Instead of, I had a friend who was over and her daughter was there. Her daughter was 15 or 16 and didn't like the idea of rentals. Anytime the conversation came up, because if you're around me, that's the conversation that's going to happen. She would tune out, I could tell. But a tenant showed up, like literally knocks on the door and says, hey, I'm having trouble with my Venmo account. I was able to pull cash out. Is it okay if I pay cash this month? He's got like literally wadded up 20s with glitter on it, kind of in a rubber band, and just hands it to me. And I'm like, I'm sure. I'd write a receipt, give him a receipt. And then he leaves. And that teenager's eyes got this big. She was like, people just give you money? And that exposure shifted to where we've had several conversations where now she's thinking about investing. So that's why I talk about older Graham Stephan, older Meet Kevin, minority mindset, getting the information into the way that currently a teenager learns.
Yeah.
You know, in our era, we had actual books and then then we moved to podcasts and so now it's short videos. I mean, there's a reason why YouTube shorts with less than a minute of content get millions of views. It's the way we take in content now.
Yeah. Very cool. Well, again, I want to close this on a positive note. I believe anybody can have a better financial future, whether you're 16 or 66. It's up to you. We all know what we need to do. Life's hard. You choose your heart. I love that statement. And again, every 16-year-old, I want you to hear this. You can be financially free by 20. You need to make sure the rat race doesn't get you. Once the rat race has got you, life gets harder. Your expenses go up. You need to flex. You need to do this. You need to do that. Ignore it. Again, if you can live on $2,000 a month, you could be financially free in 4 years. Anybody, I don't care how old you are. If you can live on $2,000 a month, you can build up side hustles. It doesn't even have to be real estate. $2,000 a month is not hard to do in this day and age. Any
totally
closing
agree.
thoughts?
No. Stay focused.
Yeah.
At 16, it's very easy to squirrel off into different topics and do the things that a lot of people think, I'm entering my 20s. I'm supposed to experience life. And that experience racks up a bunch of debt.
Yeah, not good. Not good.
No.
Very cool. Where people can find you?
Right here on YouTube, Dion Talk Financial Freedom.
Awesome.